Mega Garchomp came into the game quite some time ago now, and unfortunately it has been a bit of a disappointment. It has been lackluster in a few aspects, as in it doesn't have that same flexibility as other Stage 2 Pokemon do in this format. It lacks any strong abilities, and doesn't have anything that sets it apart. For example, look at Gardevoir and Dragapult and Charizard. All of them have things that set them apart. Dragapult is able to spread damage and take multi-prize turns very easily. We've got Gardevoir, which can, same thing, take multi-prize turns very easily. It has a built-in energy acceleration, and Dragapult has a built-in draw engine. Charizard has a built-in energy acceleration and scales as time goes on. Whereas Garchomp has Gabite, which is not a bad support engine, except it doesn't draw cards. It can only get you Cynthia's Pokemon, which isn't great. And look, the attack is not bad. For 1 energy, you do 100 damage, and then draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. But the problem is that you have 100 damage isn't great, right? 100 damage isn't great, and you're not really knocking out anything meaningful other than maybe 1 prize Pokemon, and even then you're still missing knockouts on stuff like Monkey Dory, unless you have Cynthia's Roserade in play, which lets you do 30 more damage. That means you need an extra stage 1 on your bench, and at a point, it just gets a little bit too much. It's not easy for you to set up, and it's a lot of work for a 1 energy attack cost. You need a stage 2, you need a stage 1 to be able to deal 130 damage, which just isn't great. But what if we were able to bypass that? What if we were able to make this 100 damage attack actually worth something? Well, this is where this set's Premium Power Pro comes in. Premium Power Pro is a new card that we've seen beforehand, printed on cards such as the Electric Power, the Electro Power, I think that's what it was called, and then also Power Tablet, allowing our Pokemon to do 30 more damage, and it has always been good. Every time that those cards have been in format, they've seen a major amount of success, so I don't doubt this card will have a lot of success, whether it is with Garchomp or a different fighting partner. I think this card is going to be really, really good. We do 30 extra damage whenever we want as an item. Incredibly, incredibly strong. So, how can we put this to use? Well, now instead of having a stage 1 setup such as the Roserade, we can now use Corkscrew Drive with a boss's orders and a singular item card to kill a Pheasantipede, or we can use multiple to scale this damage up to essentially 220. We do need 4 of them to do that, which isn't really feasible, but usually it'll be just that extra little bit of damage that actually gets us useful KOs, and that means Draconic Buster is also a much better attack, dealing good damage with a lot less effort, because now essentially we don't need to have like 2 to 3 Roserades set up for this attack to do any meaningful damage. We can just play 2 to 3 item cards, and bam, we're hitting relevant numbers. 2 Power Plus Pros, or Premium Power Pros, say that 10 times fast, means that we're hitting 320, which is KOing Dragapult, and that's a good number to hit. And then 1 more means we're doing 350, which isn't as good of a number to hit as 360, so if we attach something like a Vitality Band or something like that, now we're doing 360. But that's where the tools come in. Do we want to play Vitality Band, or do we want to play the Cynthia's Power Band, which gives us 70 extra HP? And this is where I think the deck finally has these options. With Mega Lucario coming into the format, I think this deck might take upon a role of Arceus Duraludon. I'm not too sure if you guys remember that deck. It was a deck that was very strong for the fact that it made you go through an Arceus, which had 280 HP, which was quite a lot of HP at the time, and then making you go through 2 Duraludon VMAXs, which were 3 prizes, both having around 320/330 HP. I don't remember exactly how much it was, and essentially it forced you to play an 8 prize game, right? Because you'd KO this, then you'd KO another 3 prizer, and you'd still have 1 more prize card to take, and now you have to go through a 3 prizer as well. So honestly, it was a good deck. It was consistent, it was good, and it did what it had to do. And I think Mega Lucario can bring itself into a role similar to that of Arceus. We can use Aura Jab for 130 damage, which isn't a terrible number. We see Burning Charge do the same thing, except for 2 energy, and it attaches 3 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. And then we have Mega Brave, which does 270. So this is like a very similar card to that of Flareon and Arceus, with a pretty good attack and then a second attack that does more damage. Arceus didn't really have that second attack that did more damage. It was just the exact same attack. But the nice thing is that it is still able to deal a good amount of damage. Like 270 damage isn't horrible, and when you pair that with our Premium Power Pro, now we can actually hit things that are quite relevant. So for example, in the beginning of the game, we can set up one of these Mega Lucario EXs in the active. We can have our benched Gabites and Garchomps, and then we can get the energy in the bin using a new card that has also just come out called Fighting Gong, which is a great addition to fighting decks, such a deck for basic fighting Pokemon, or a basic fighting energy card, put into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this can get the fighting energy out of the deck, or the basic Gabites or Riolus to actually help us set up the deck. And from this position, we can get these energy in the bin using Ultra Balls, using Earthen Vessels or Professor's Researchers while setting up our Mega Lucario EX, attaching a singular energy, and then attaching that energy from the bin to our benched Garchomps. And we can do this for 1 or 2 turns while we set up our Garchomps and while our opponent tries to deal with Mega Lucario. And if we're able to take 2 prize cards through this, that means, well, we have to take 4 more prize cards, and that's honestly not going to be that difficult, as we'll have access to our Premium Power Pros towards the later stages of the game. And not only that, we'll force our opponent to go through 3 prize cards originally, and then 2 prize cards, and then another 2 prize cards, essentially forcing them into a 7 prize card game. It's not the same exactly as Arceus Duraludon, as because Arceus Duraludon had a 2 prizes setting up 3 prizes, whereas this way it is 3 prizes setting up 2 prizes, but those 2 prizes are also worth 400 HP. Thanks to Cynthia's power bands. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but this card here. This card over here lets our Cynthia's Pokemon be able to be very chunky, right? 400 HP is nothing to scoff at. And you'll be thinking, oh, but sure, Goldengo can, you know, hit that number, and Raging Bolt can hit that number, and there's, you know, it's not the most suppressive thing, the HP, like we have Jamming Tower and stuff like that. Okay, cool. But now if we take a look at this deck that we've got set up, it's not the most, you know, flashy deck. There's not many, you don't need too many options for it. We've got an attacker powering up other attackers, and those big attackers are just going to keep beat sticking through you. So how do we prevent other decks like Goldengo from actually beating us? Because this is exactly what Goldengo would want to play against. The big 2 prizes that are a bit slower to set up and have a high amount of HP and are worth a lot of prize cards. Well, we can play cards like Eri, because it is very easy for us to set up through things like our Gabite and through things like our Mega Lucario EX, being able to accelerate our energy, and Gabite being able to accelerate our Pokemon. This means this opens up a lot of space in our decks for disruptive cards, such as Eri. One Eri can win us the game against Goldengo, right? If we play Eri at the correct time, we can discard 2 superior energy retrievals, and from there, it is quite literally not possible for them to get through 2 400 HP Garchomps and a 350 HP Mega Lucario. It just isn't really possible. And Eri is also really good against other decks. It can get rid of stuff like Rare Candy in Charizard, it can get rid of stuff like Night Stretches in Dragapult, and it is a very, very strong card moving forward. And I think it's going to be really good in a more disruptive build of Cynthia's Garchomp. We can also play things such as Enhanced Hammer against Dragapult to get rid of their special energy. We can run things like Crushing Hammer to get rid of energy in Dragapult as well, or just other decks in general. And we can just run a much more suppressive build of Cynthia's Garchomp, where we're spamming Judges every turn, we're spamming Boss's Orders every turn, we're running Unfair Stamp to make sure that it's difficult for them to field any amount of comeback, and we're powering up these big attackers, and we're able to use our attacks like Corkscrew Drive with our Premium Power Pro to actually swing for relevant numbers, and towards the later stage of the game, using Draconic Buster to just completely shut our opponent out of the game, knocking out things like Goldengos, like Dragapults, like Gardevoirs, with a lot more ease than we would have beforehand. So I think this deck actually has a lot of merit to it. I think it is going to be actually quite strong, and I don't think I've seen anyone running anything similar. A lot of these decks lean into the whole Cynthia's Garchomp engine and only play the Cynthia's Garchomp Pokemon, and that's fair. I think it's a pretty good idea, but I think that the Cynthia's Garchomp has a lot more to it than meets the eye as of right now, and I think moving forward, I'm going to try and start fielding ideas and deck lists for this kind of version of the deck, and we'll see how it goes in the future. But for now, that's it. See ya.